Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Conversation to Transform Birth. I'm Sheila Kamara Hay, and I'm here today with Emilia Vogt. Hi, Emilia.
Greetings.
Welcome. I'm so excited to have you all meet Emilia because she has an amazing, amazing birth story to share. And one of the things I love about sharing birth stories, some women have worked with me to prepare to have an ecstatic birth experience, and that's amazing. But I always love when I meet a woman that had this experience years ago and now is so excited to feel that this information is becoming mainstream and is excited to lend her voice to letting women know, actually, this is real. This is not made up. This is not, some new like standard that we're setting for women or that they have to achieve or anything like that. But actually, women have been having pleasurable, orgasmic, ecstatic, transcendent birth experiences since the beginning of time. And we just haven't been hearing about it because overwhelmingly, that's not the dominant experience. And there's a million reasons for that, which you may or may not have heard me talk about. But if you're interested in learning some of the reasons and learning how you can overcome them, visit my website, ecstatic-birth.com. I have free trainings there. But Emilia is a woman who gave birth 21 years ago. She did it her way. She is, to give you some background, she's a woman who's very much committed to healthy living. She's currently in a PhD track to get her PhD in holistic nutrition and publish a book about that. So this commitment to her body and her lifestyle is something that is really, really important to her. And when I heard her birth story that she describes as like super orgasmic, as transcendent, I knew that you all had to hear it. So again, welcome, Emilia. I'm so excited to have you here to share your birth story.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Really nice to meet you. And I'm happy to be here to share this experience and this story.
Yeah,
thank you.
I'm really, really excited for everybody to hear what you have to say. And I think let's just get right to the heart of it. Like, what was it about your birth experience that you felt like, oh my God, like, why doesn't everyone know that this is possible? Wow, I didn't, like, what was it that kind of like blew you away in your birth experience?
Well, just to get started, it was late November when I gave birth, and it was a windy night, and there were clouds rolling by, and you could hear the trees talking, and it just felt really mystical. The whole night felt mystical, and there's so much depth to this story, but to jump right in, I had no idea how orgasmic giving birth could be. And when the rushes came and when the contractions came, I just allowed myself to feel into it and to use my voice and to really just go with it. It was, like I said, it was orgasmic. It was sacred orgasmic. And being by the window in the company of the wind and the very fine people who were with me in the birth, supported me to be naked the whole time I was giving birth. My partner didn't quite know what to do with himself during the home birth, so he was stoking the wood stove, and so I didn't have any clothes on, and he had a shirt off and shorts on, and my midwife was in a tank top, and so I just allowed myself to not get caught up in what anybody thought about me or how I was behaving during my birth. That if I wanted to just go into it, into the pleasure and the pain, then I allowed myself, and it was super cool because my midwife's assistant would go outside to go to the car or just to ground out, and she could hear me outside moaning, and she said it was like a song that went through the trees, making their noise with the wind and the creaking and everything. So I came to a point in the birth where I wasn't making any progress, and it was hurting a lot. And my midwife checked me, and she said that the baby was caught up on the cervix, and he couldn't drop down. And she was going to have to put her hands up in there to push the cervix out in order for him to drop down. And if he didn't do that, then we're going to have to go to the hospital. And I did not want to go to the hospital. I was actually scared of the hospital. And so Gail, my midwife, put her hands up there and pushed the cervix out, and the baby dropped down. And after that, I was really able to allow myself to go into the euphoria of giving birth, and because I knew he was going to come out without a hitch, as they say. And I kind of flew out of my body and up into the tree that I could see out the window, and I was witnessing myself from out of body. And I can still see myself laying on the bed. I can still see it in my mind's eye. And when my son came out, it was like the final orgasm, you know, where you just get a rush and all the water comes out with it, and you're just, woo. And so I was kind of spent and in another world. And they put the baby on my belly, and I could feel him, and I could kind of see the whole situation. But I was like, is it a boy? Is it a girl? You know, I just really needed to know that. Yeah. Oh, how exciting to remember that evening and to remember this story.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have so many questions. I didn't want to.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Questions. Okay. So when you say that it was orgasmic, was it really from that moment after your cervix was fully dilated, your midwife supported you, and your baby came out that it was orgasmic, or was it throughout the labor?
Well, in the evening, we played a lot of cribbage when I was having contractions, and when I couldn't think anymore about the numbers, then we just prayed. We just talked about our ideal birth and how grateful we were and how healthy we were and what an ideal situation it was. And when the midwife finally came, after we finally called her, I was 7 centimeters already. And she's like, wow, you all have been doing some good work here, you know? And it really was from the time that the midwife came and everything was lining up that I felt safe enough to use my voice in that way. And by not stuffing my voice, I was able to open up to the birth experience that much more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. So, you know, like we actually in a lot of ecstatic birth training, we do that like voice training to really allow you to connect with your sexual energy using your voice. So it sounds like voice was a very pivotal part of your experience, that being in a space where you were able to fully voice, fully express, really contributed to the euphoria of the experience.
Yes, faux show.
Yeah. Okay. And how was it navigating the contractions as they became more intense? Like, how did you do that dance? How did that whole experience feel?
I'm a very emotional woman, and so I feel emotions very deeply. And but as far as physical pain goes, it doesn't, it takes a lot more for me to be in pain.
Yeah.
Um, and I was able to tap into, as you say, this experience that women have been having since the dawn of time. All of these women gave birth, their bodies knew what to do. And I felt like I was able to tap into that knowing and that herstory, that, what was the question? That was the answer.
How did you navigate those contractions? Like, how did you?
Oh, I just tapped into the potency of women in the past.
Yeah.
And it empowered me to be like, this is nothing. Not that it's nothing. I mean, of course, it was 21 years ago, but I just reflect upon those rushes as, well, like in sex, sometimes it's pleasurable and painful at the same time. And
Yeah.
that's what it was like for me.
So I'm curious, did you have that awareness before you went into your birth? Did you have that awareness that it could be like super pleasurable in this way?
No, 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 no. I didn't have a clue that I was going through the most orgasmic experience of my entire life. I had no clue. Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't like, now as more women are gaining awareness of the fact that people can have orgasms in birth, or people can have these ecstatic transcendent experiences, there can be this feeling of like, okay, like I have to work towards it, or I have to. So what's beautiful about your story is actually you had no idea. What it sounds like you were actually doing is that you were very much in touch with your body and
Yeah.
allowing your body to express, move, and sound in the ways that felt
Mhm.
best to you. And that's part of what made it feel so good. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was moving around the way I wanted to. I was, vocalizing the way I wanted to. Yeah, I felt safe. I felt supported. I felt like if anything was going to happen, that my people were going to advocate for me. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all such important factors. And I'm also wondering about, like, how did you come to trust your body that much? That's a really big piece.
That is a really big piece, Sheila. Yeah, it is. Um, One of the stories in my family was that women have a hard time giving birth. My grandmother died in childbirth and the baby died also. And then my mother, when she gave birth, she bled a lot also. And so there was this piece, this fear piece surrounding birth. Um, but I'm devoted to health and wellness. And so I felt strong and I felt competent and I felt like I said, the lineage of her story. And so I asked my grandfather about my grandmother's birthing experience and how she died. And what he ultimately told me was that it was the intervention of the hospital that caused her to bleed so much. It was because they didn't allow her the time to open up and to allow the baby to come in its own time.
Mhm.
So by understanding that it wasn't part of my genealogy or part of women giving birth in my family, it was something totally different. And so I was able to let go of any fear that I had that I wasn't capable of having a healthy birth. Yeah.
Yeah. And I heard you say earlier that actually the fear for you was going to the hospital. I'm guessing because of your family history and because of what your grandfather shared with you. And
Yes.
so,
Mhm.
how did you cultivate? Because safety is such a big piece in allowing your body to do what it needs to do. How did you cultivate safety at home for yourself?
Woo. My partner and I, we went to conscious birthing classes. And so we really visualized and talked about and wrote about and prayed about our birth. I had endless amounts of time with my midwife asking me detailed questions about what was okay and what was acceptable and what isn't acceptable in a birth, in an emergency situation. Her birthing assistant, the doula, was a dear sister friend of ours that we completely trusted. She was a nurse. And so because of that preparation before of with my midwife and just together doing our own work, it really prepared me to feel safe, and I could let go and give birth and not worry because I knew I was taken care of. Yeah.
Yeah, that conscious preparation is such a big piece. And I remember reading somewhere that only like 20% of women, and that I think that even might be a statistic on the high side, are currently taking childbirth education classes. And that's not even conscious birthing classes, right? And so
Hmm.
I love that you're saying that preparation was such a big part of you feeling safe. And I think that's key. Like even the conversation that you had with your grandfather, like being able to really look at your fears, address your fears, create support for yourself around the things that you might have been nervous about, or, like around your considerations and around your desires, that's everything. Like to be able to feel so held like that you can fully surrender and trust your body is really, really big.
Hmm.
So I'm curious about one other piece. I hope you don't mind my asking this. I'm curious about your relationship with your sexuality at that stage in your life, because a lot of women hold so much shame, trauma, like cultural conditioning in their relationship to their sexuality, that it actually makes it really hard to experience birth as a sexual act, which, like, even just saying that, like, I can feel my body kind of inwardly cringe. It's like, oh, are you really going to say this out loud, Sheila? And like on Facebook, on YouTube, like, yeah, birth is a sexual act. And I think there's a huge disassociation in our culture around that, even though, like, how else do you make the baby? Like, birth is actually the culmination of that. But because right now, I think globally, for the most part, babies are kind of like pure and clean, and we delegate them to one corner.
Mm.
Sexuality, not so much. Like, it's more of the shadows, and we keep our children and sexuality very far apart from each other. And so, how was it for you at that stage in your life? Like, do you feel like you had a really like good connection with your sexuality, and that's how you were able to have that type of birth, or or not? I'm just curious.
Mm. Well, my sexuality I've gotten way more in touch with it since that birthing experience. Since I realized I could be so orgasmic, I could allow myself to
Mhm.
feel that, to vocalize, to 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 be in that place of pleasure and pain, and it be okay. Um, so that experience definitely empowered my sexuality. At the time that I gave birth, I have to say I was still a recovering Catholic, and I felt maybe more inhibited than than I was after I gave birth.
Yeah.
After I became a woman,
Yeah.
not a maiden anymore. It seems like maybe I would be more sexual and sensual when I was a maiden, but I didn't feel confident in myself until I gave birth like that. And I felt I needed to be modest and not sexy. Um, so I think
That's
that answers your question.
Yeah, it totally does. And I think it's actually so inspiring to hear that. Not that there's any right or wrong in any way,
No, no,
but
no,
you
just
don't
my
have to
experience.
be like like, oh, it's like, do you have to be like an overly sexual person? Do you have to be like overly comfortable with your sexuality? Do you have to already be like orgasmic or multi-orgasmic to have this type
No.
of experience? And I'm hearing you say, like, no, actually, in a lot of ways, you were the opposite before your birth, that the birth experience was an activation for you in your sexuality.
Yes, I would definitely say that. Mhm.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And I've heard both sides of that story. So for anybody
Mm.
that's watching this and wondering about like how your own birth experience can go, I think it can be really empowering to know that you don't have to be a certain way to have this beautiful, ecstatic, orgasmic, transcendent experience in birth, that actually sometimes it is the rite of passage in and of itself that will activate you.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
things that Emilia highlighted that are so important: preparing, connecting to your body wisdom, cultivating safety, cultivating support. Those are the conditions, much like with your sexuality, those are the conditions that will allow your body to really feel like it can open up.
Yes.
Yeah, really, I'm curious, is there anything else that you would want to share with, women that are expecting and considering, like, oh my gosh, how's my birth going to be? How's it going to go? Anything that you would want them to know?
Um, I would encourage people to do their squats. Yeah, I think that's really great to be opening up. And so if you have the opportunity to go outside and just pee on the earth and connect that way, I encourage you to do your squats. Also, connecting with the earth was very grounding in my birthing experience, and connecting with the breath. So doing the breath work was really wonderful for me to prepare for my birth. And also during the birth to really just get high on the breath, to help facilitate the orgasmic experience. Yes, that's
Yeah.
what I have to share about that.
Yeah, I love that you highlighted your relationship to the earth, because I heard that in your story, just the way you were talking about like the wind and the sounds that you were making, and
Yeah.
the breath. Breath is a tool, is one of many tools actually that we use in natural birth, but is also a tool for women who want to experience more pleasure in their bodies and have more enjoyment in their sexuality. Like, a lot of the tools are one and the same. And this is something that I teach in Oh Baby: how to use your breath, how to use sound, how you use movement, how you use visualization to support you to navigate childbirth. But these are all tools that also support you to expand in pleasure and open to that flow of ecstasy within you. So for anybody that's interested in learning more about that and preparing in that way, I invite you to check out Oh Baby. I'll put the link to it below. Emilia, this has been so much fun. It's been amazing to hear and to feel. Like, I can still feel the passion of your birth story in your body as you're relaying it. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom with us and your experience with us.
Well, I'm certainly honored to share this potent and sacred story. And it's been absolutely wonderful for me to reflect upon it, because I can cellularly feel in my body um, the power that I felt as a woman giving birth. Like, I am empowered by sharing this story and this memory. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, and I can't resist. I have to ask you one more question, just because you verbalize that so beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
That power support you in motherhood?
Could you say that again?
Yeah, how did that power that you felt, that when you gave birth, like the connection to that deep feminine power and wisdom, how did it support you in motherhood?
Well, I'd never been a mother before. I wasn't really sure how to be a mother. And so I just had to go on my own confidence. And if I could create such an amazing high birth, I could create that in mothering in my own human way. And because I felt so powerful, that the birthing experience was so amazing, important, I definitely dedicated my spiritual path to the path of mothering. And that's what it has been for me, a spiritual path, a journey. So
I can relate to
that
that.
birth,
I
yeah.
call my children, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like, I was just relating because I call my children like my own personal growth tools.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely relate to mothering as a spiritual path.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Emilia. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Emilia, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, or learn more about your work as a holistic chef, or look out for your book, what's the best way to do that?
You can keep an eye out for me on Facebook. Emilia Flor Vogt. And I'm also on Instagram, Emiliana Flor.
All right, and I'll put those
Thank you.
links below the video for anybody that's looking for them. All right,
Cool.
well, thanks again. Lots of love.
Lots of love. Peace out.
All right.